Marlon, welcome. Thanks for being the first guest of the podcast. How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm so happy. I'm happy to be here.
Dude, it means a lot to me that you came on because this actually does so much for the podcast.
Come on.
More than you probably know. So thank you again.
No, thank you, Stefano.
How are you? What did you get up to today?
I just feel very privileged that I'm your first guest here on the podcast. Super happy. And yeah, I'm a bit sick though, so that's why maybe my voice might sound a bit weird. But it's been great. Just been busy. Came back from Singapore recently. Was covering F1 there. Saw Lewis Hamilton clinch his sixth title, which was
What
great.
do you think about that?
I think it's a really awesome achievement. Six titles. It wasn't not too long ago where you felt like, is he ever gonna be that close to even matching Michael Schumacher's world championship record, which was 7 with Ferrari. So the fact that he has 6 now, he's still pretty young. He's still on the cusp of breaking more records. Definitely. And Mercedes is not going away anytime soon, at least for the next year before the rule changes in 2021. So I feel like he'll at least match Schumi next year, and then 2021, if he wins another one, then he can cement himself as the greatest, because that's just a whole new rule set. It's going to be a totally different challenge to win another world championship. It's already hard enough to win one now, but in a different rule set as well. In 2021, that's gonna just set him to the moon, and like forget it. He's the greatest ever, So he's really good.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like he's brought the sport onto a whole nother level. It's interesting now because also you have the young guns coming in, like Max and Charles, and I guess Lando and George Russell. But it's funny how like Senna brought the intensity, Schumi brought like another level of, I guess, dedication and hard work, professionalism. I think he was one of the earliest drivers to really start getting fit and think about their cardio and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
and now Lewis is, I don't know, it's just so interesting because whenever I look at him, it looks like, because we're so used to the stereotypical F1 driver that has no life other than F1.
Yeah.
And you see Lewis very much doing so many other things on his Instagram. Like, it's interesting because he's also brought a whole new aspect of, and also a lot of new viewers.
For sure. I mean, he's really embodied being like a super athlete. Outside of the track, you can be so much more than just being a racing driver, And I think Lewis really embraces that. And there's a lot of life that you gotta live, especially once your racing career stops. There's only such a short period or shelf life. Luckily in racing, actually, you can prolong your career.
How old is Kimi now? 40?
Kimi's like 40, but
Jeez.
he's just a special being in himself anyway.
And he's flying. It's funny how fast he is in the Sauber.
I'd say he's definitely one of the biggest raw talents in motorsport ever. I mean, he rocked up in the scene coming out of Formula Renault, barely had like a number of races in his junior series career, and then straight to Sauber, and then straight to McLaren, all these good teams, won a world championship with Ferrari. Kimi's just been like a special talent ever since. So I think he's not going to lose that even as he ages. And, it's not the same like other sports where your body's what limits, your progression. Like in football, like soccer, basketball, for instance. Like that's your engine, that's your chassis that you have to depend on. Luckily in racing, it's not as dependent on that. It's more on your mental and like your reflexes and all these things. So you can have a good, nice, long career, and that's what Kimi's doing right now.
It doesn't look like he needs to retire anytime soon because he's absolutely flying.
I hope not. I hope he
he's
just
my
stays.
favorite driver too.
Same. So. Like when I was growing up, I was always rooting for Kimi. So when I saw him win the world championship, that was really huge.
Yeah.
And also knowing that when I was in Lotus and he was in Lotus, I was
That's something I want to touch on later also. That must have been amazing.
It was great. Like it was I couldn't say any more about it. I was racing I was in the same team as someone I was playing PlayStation video games of. I was always choosing him as a character or him as the driver or McLaren whenever I was playing those video games. So it was just weird to be in the same team. It was pretty cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Dude, so I want to do this thing every time I have a guest on. I'd like to go through 10 Instagram pictures.
10?
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I want you to give either a little bit of a backstory or just whatever you remember.
Okay.
From those posts. They're your posts, so they should be.
You're a lot more prepared than I expected.
I'm ready, dude.
Okay.
I've been dreaming of this moment for a long time.
All right.
Ready for the first one?
Yeah. Go.
What is happening here?
I really don't know.
You spent New Year's in Bangkok?
No, this was just a trip to Thailand that I did with a couple of friends. So we got to ride the trikes. I've been
Called tuk-tuks?
Tuk-tuks.
Okay.
And like I've been in Asia now because like the last 2.5 years I'd say, and I spent most of my life actually in Europe because I moved to Europe when I was around 16, right? So like the last couple of years I wanted to see Asia more versus just being there and being in that little bubble that is the racetrack, which is the hotel and just going to the track.
And the tracks aren't in nice areas.
They're not in the most
They're
prime.
in like the province.
Yeah,
usually.
they're out in the boondocks, you know. So normally or typically, right? Aside from like street races, but this year I wanted to really just see more of Asia, experience it, really like take it in, and that was one of those trips. So that's me just taking the public transport.
Yeah,
over there.
that's awesome. Did you go to the red light district, or was it a very wholesome trip?
It was no, we passed by there too. You're just bound to do it as a tourist, right?
Yeah.
So unique experience. The food's always great there too. Thai food. I mean, you can't go wrong with Thai food. Like, I
Definitely.
love spicy as well, but they know how to do spicy.
Oh, like
And
it's
the flavors,
too spicy.
Yeah,
It's
but
crazy, yeah, but it's delicious.
the
definitely.
flavors, yeah, they have such a wide mix of flavors. Like it's amazing, and it's really like it's different when you have it in Asia, but when you're actually in the country that does
Where it
does that
originates
cuisine,
from.
yeah, specifically, like the
For
food
sure.
there was amazing. So I loved it.
Okay, you ready for picture number 2?
Yeah, go.
I picked this picture because there are two guys there that look very familiar.
Yeah.
And of course, you're up there. What series is this? And what track is this too?
So,
Monza.
Yeah, that's Monza. So Carlos Sainz Jr. He won that race. I was second, and Sirotkin was third. He was actually quite hot on my heels for a lot of the race. We had some good battles that weekend. I think it was the first weekend of the World Series by Renault Championship that year.
And this was 3.5, right?
3.5
Not the
liter
2 liters
engine.
anymore.
Yeah, this was big
The
engine.
big ones.
Yeah, proper sound, proper downforce as well. And yeah, so like we had a good weekend. Like I just rocked up. We were quick, free practice.
Man, just the caliber though. 'Cause
Yeah, and I've always raced like ever since like we left the Philippines to really pursue this career in motorsport. The only way you could get better was competing with the best. And ever since I made that move from leaving here, I'm not taking anything away from Asia and the Philippines and our talent as well, but everyone goes there from wherever you are in the world to Europe to compete with the best. And it was just stellar lines or stellar roster of drivers in every grid that I was racing in, from go-karts all the way to Formula cars. And then you end up with the best as you get closer to the top. World Series at that time, you had drivers also going straight to F1. So it was like, you'd say it would be on par with maybe GP2 at the time as well, and F3, of course, you were still getting drivers also to F1. So it was just amazing doing that race there. And Carlos won it. He was flying. He had some really nice lines into the last corner in Parabolica.
That's a fast corner.
Fast corner. And in the World Series, it was really, really, really quick and really enjoyable race.
I remember when you first moved into World Series, you were talking about how physical it was.
Yeah.
I think you came from. Did you come from BMW or were you doing a Renault series?
I was doing GP3, so I went
Okay.
from GP3 to World Series.
And I remember you saying that the steering was
heavy.
particularly heavy. I remember when you were racing then. I remember how big you got. Your forearms were huge.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I had to do so much weight training for a World Series. It was crazy. Like I was doing Olympic lifting, just to get my strength like big enough to get big enough muscles to just turn the car. Because in World Series and Formula cars, you don't actually have power steering like what you have in a normal road vehicle. So those road vehicles that you see like every day on the street, they're actually normally a lot heavier than the cars that we race. But you can imagine if you never had power steering, how heavy it would be to turn like I don't know, like an Alphard or like a big Land Cruiser. Yeah. Imagine if you didn't have power steering. So we had that, but in a racing car. So it was so difficult, like, to get my head wrapped around the fact that I needed to be stronger in order to do what I wanted with the car, and not the car to be driving me. You know, so.
And was that the first time? I mean, I'm sure when you moved up from the junior formula before that, not junior, but GP3.
Yeah.
The jump was pretty big.
The jump was
in
big.
Fitness.
Of course, yeah. GP3 was, I mean, it's still a physical car, but it's nothing like it was nothing like World Series. I think we had so much downforce then. Maybe at some points in, like, for instance, Spa-Francorchamps, the track in Belgium, our minimum speeds with the rules that were based around that time for Formula One would be just as quick as a Formula One car.
That's crazy.
So, but the difference was Formula One cars had power steering, so you don't need to be as strong in Formula One. You just need to be more mentally prepared, and you just need more cardio because the races are longer as well. But like in World Series, it was just brutal. And I remember the first day, sat in the car, and like after the first day of testing, I was just dizzy. I just felt like I just felt wrecked. Yeah. And I remember walking away from that test in Barcelona saying like, wow, I'm gonna need to step up my game in fitness and
that's
the gym.
like everything, including your neck. Because your neck was huge already, and it got even bigger.
My neck's already big, so
it got even bigger.
It got huge for that
when you were racing that series.
Yeah, it had
so,
to be.
And it's funny, huh? When you go around the track and the first few laps, you're like, all right, I got this. I can handle the G's. And like 20 laps in, and you can't even hold your head up.
And once your neck goes,
that's it. That's it. Your times are gone because your horizon's off.
You can't see where you're going. It hurts, and it doesn't matter. Like if your fitness goes, like in any sport, you're done. You can't perform.
Your performance is
So
shot.
I had a really long winter. Did a lot of weightlifting. I was training a lot with my trainer Dave Thompson. He's still the trainer actually for a lot of the Renault Academy drivers now in Enstone in the UK. So he put me on a serious program.
And it worked, man.
Yeah, I was
freaking
really
strong.
Yeah, I think I gained like 5 kilos of muscle. Just
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that. All right, bro. This one's a good one because
that's great. Yeah.
I before you get into this, I remember when this happened, and everybody, well, our group, Yvonne. Well, primarily Yvonne, Mateo, we're all messaging, dude, Marlon just won Monaco. And for non-racers that are listening or watching, to win in Monaco is like, it's the best thing. If there's a race to win, it's Monaco.
Definitely.
And it's just, Monaco is the embodiment of motorsport, pretty much. Like, the glamour side, at least. It's just
the crown jewel.
Yeah,
There's
man.
the three. You have Indy 500, you have Le Mans, and then you have Monaco.
I can't believe you ticked off Monaco. That's insane.
No, it's.
How did that race go? This was in what, GP3?
GP3, yeah. So this was like coming in, I think, more into a serious team that year. I was with Status, really good team. I had a good engineer in Matt Greasley. We really synced well, and the season got off to a good start. In Barcelona already, I think in the feature race, I think I came third or second. And I think by this point in the season, or after this race, I was third in the championship in GP3. So we had a really strong start. And it was an awesome weekend. I just had like good energy the whole time because... And it's a track you can't practice on. So if you go there the first time, it's properly your first time. And back then, like, simulators were still in really more the development stage, or at least the sims that Formula One teams were using. They were progressing it into like allowing customer teams to have access to it. So all I had as a reference was YouTube videos. my PlayStation,
which is
some simulators,
which is very far from what it is today.
Yeah, from what it is now, like what you can access now at home, and like the
It's
technology,
much closer.
It's way closer. So back then, I remember just watching YouTube videos like till morning, till evening, like before I'd fall asleep, just to get a feel and a rhythm for the track. So when I closed my eyes, like I'd know where I was going.
You know exactly what corners coming
Yeah.
up, the bumps,
Exactly.
the little nuances in the corners, everything. Yeah, that's amazing.
So I tried to practice as many laps for that race. Luckily, it worked out. Unfortunately, in qualifying, because we get split into different groups, in my group, I was pretty quick. I had like a purple first and second sector, but we were the first group, which is normally the slowest.
Purple means fastest.
Purple is
sector.
like, fastest point on the lap. So I was setting those, and then it got red flag. So I
Oh,
ended
man.
up third in my group, which meant I started sixth.
Because the
for
two
the
groups
race.
combine.
They combine, and you always get priority if you're the faster group, and normally the second group, which I wasn't in, that's just random. They obviously got the quicker time, so I would have been maybe third or fourth for the start of the race, but I was sixth because our group was slower. So that race went okay. Started sixth. What could I do? And then we got the
for anybody that hasn't seen Monaco, it's almost impossible to pass. It's
so
crazy.
hard. It's
hard.
crazy.
I mean, you can.
It's possible,
but it's difficult. The likelihood of an accident is pretty high of touching because it's so tight.
you're bound to touch, whether it's another car or the barriers.
Yeah.
You have to be doing that if you're on the limit. So yeah, we came like eighth, got the reverse pole for the sprint race on the Saturday, I think, in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember just being on pole and just thinking like, don't mess up the start, don't mess up the start. And my uncle was there with me, like Eric, and he slept with me in the same room that night, and he was just giving me good energy. So I remember waking up, he wrote a nice note on my mirror, and he said, "Today's your day. You're gonna win the race. You're the champ. Let's go, champ." Basically,
That's the best.
and so he wrote that, like, and I saw it on the mirror, and I was like, all right, like I'm feeling good.
You owned it.
I slept like the best sleep I had. Like, was really relaxed, just trying to enjoy the race. Like everything went perfect. So I took that note, kept it in my pocket, actually put it in my fireproof underwear, just to keep that good energy into the race. And then I remember the only point that I kind of freaked out was when I realized I'm on pole in Monaco. The 5 lights went on, before the start. And then you're supposed to keep your foot on the brake for the start procedure, and you use your hand for the clutch. So the lights were going off. Felt like an eternity.
I'm sure.
And my legs started shaking.
I don't blame you.
Right on pole position
Yeah.
for Monaco, right?
Yeah.
And it started shaking, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, this is taking forever. And then lights went out, dropped the clutch.
You had a clean start. I remember
And then
watching
the start was perfect.
Yeah.
But I felt like any bit, just a little bit less revs. Like revolutions, RPMs in the engine.
When you
off
felt
the
like you'd have
start.
stalled.
Might have stalled. Because it was really like on the limit. Like I wanted to go straight away,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, all the nerves calmed down, did the first corner, blocked off the other guys. And then we finished the race and won it. And I got fastest lap as well.
Yeah,
And-
because it's nice because you actually had the pace to win.
Oh yeah.
So,
we were
like,
quick
yeah.
from qualifying till that sprint race, we had the pace, and we just made the most of what we got. I
Yeah.
would have preferred the feature race win as well, or a podium too, but
I mean, what
it
can you
worked
do
that
with a
way.
red flag? That's out of your hands.
And it happened in qualifying and in the races, but end of the day, we got the trophy, and it was pretty cool.
The best trophy. The best trophy. Where is that trophy, by the way?
Wait, there's a funny story with that trophy. So, every year, especially in GP3, our trophies had to be. We would get replica trophies. So I remember, like from Barcelona, I think Monaco, and some other tracks, I was supposed to get some replica trophies, but the team unfortunately was shutting down. So the F2 team now is Prema, which was formerly Status. Last time I raced with them, and when the factory was shutting down, my old engineer that worked with me a little bit in World Series and in GP2, he was still there, and he said, "Hey Marlon, like your trophy's here." I'm like, "Well, they never sent me a replica." And he said, "All right, say no more."
That's awesome.
And
So you have the original?
He literally hand carried the trophy, came to visit me in Switzerland, brought that to me. So I have the trophy now. So I'm very happy.
The actual trophy.
I have the actual trophy.
Dude,
so it's gonna be in a special place.
So it's
for the
in
rest
your
of my
house
life.
there.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Nice, dude. I remember that clearly. I was extremely happy for you, but also extremely jealous. I was like, man, that's the dream.
That was it.
Who's this dude?
So that's Papa Tom, my dad, and then we were that was on a boat. I think that was after our race, so we were just watching.
This is Monaco. It's gotta be Monaco right?
again, yeah, for sure. And we were just enjoying the race there. Like the Lotus, they always had a yacht, like a huge yacht, to throw their parties and have all their guests and obviously some of the team. And then we were just there, yeah. So we were just watching, enjoying after the race. I think my mom was with like Michelle Rodriguez, like she spotted
I remember
her. Yeah,
that picture
they
of,
had like
of Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, so my mom was with, I think Michelle Rodriguez. She said hello to her. It was like, I love Fast and the Furious. She got a picture.
Remember that.
She was just enjoying as well there, so it was pretty cool. So that's just enjoying after the race in Monaco, as you should do.
The reason why I picked this picture is because fathers, actually not only fathers, but parents in general, but maybe fathers particularly. But then again, your mom was very active in your racing also. Parents play such a big role.
They can or they
or yeah. This is something I wanted to bring up with you because parents are very important, and they can make or break a child's career, especially because you start at karting when you're like 10 or 9 or 11 or whatever. And I brought it up because my relationship with my dad got so good. Please get a Kit Kat. I remember we got so close because of the racing. Yeah. It's something that you share with your parents. You spend, and the thing about racing, or actually any sport, when you have a parent, when you give up, because your parents have to give up their lives somewhat too. Especially if you're going to pursue a career like yours where it's all out and you're going to go to Europe and you're go around Asia, your parents also have to make that commitment. So I think for both of us, we owe it to our parents that they sacrificed so much alongside our sacrifices to, I guess, the monetary support, the time sacrifice, the pushing of us.
Full on.
Yeah, so I picked this picture because it reminded me of my dad because we also got very close from racing, and I know that. I mean, your parents were at the racetrack.
They were there too, and yours
all the time.
No, but the difference with us is our dads were racing with us.
That's true.
On the track as well.
That's true.
So they were as competitive and egotistic as any racing driver would be, and that's great. You know.
I remember,
like
I accidentally crashed into my dad in my first year of karting.
I remember touching your dad, bumping him as well, and he was quick. Your dad was quick too.
He was quick, definitely. He's got it in him, definitely. So yeah, man, it's just good memories.
Oh yeah.
With other races and also just with your parents, it makes you so
bond,
close to them.
Exactly.
But there's the flip side.
Where
you can be a parent that is overbearing, because especially at karting, and you hear it from F1 drivers now. The karting stage is about having fun. Of course, you're spending money, so you don't want to waste the money. But there's a point where, if you're a parent, and I think it doesn't just apply to racing, but to any sport, you have to just be there and allow your child to have fun, to guide them, but not to put too much pressure on them.
You don't want to lose the fun. Never.
It'll kill it.
Yeah. That's with my dad. That's what he did really well with me. He always made it like, there's never pressure to force me into the sport. I saw him out of curiosity when he'd come home smelling like gasoline, and I'd see like a nicely painted helmet.
Was he racing before you started racing?
Yeah, he was racing before I started.
Okay.
So, and how that started my career. So he got into it, like I'd say early 40s maybe, or a bit, early 40s. He got into go-karts. Started racing in Carmona and Cavite. Did all those races. He did it with a buddy. They enjoyed it like as a hobby with like Otmar. And
Otmar.
From there, yeah, I'd see him coming home, right? I'd see all the cool equipment. I'd see the gloves, the racing suit, and you're a young kid. You're like, what's this? Like,
I think the helmet always gets you.
Seeing the carbon fiber helmet, like, and he had just like a simple motorbike helmet at the time. It wasn't like some cool Arai or Bell Formula One helmet. It was just a helmet. And I remember just getting so intrigued. So he said, do you want to come to the track? And I said, of course, yeah, I want to go. Got to the racetrack. And then I saw him racing, and I was like, wow, like the engine sound, like the fuel.
How old were you?
I think I was like 7 or 8.
You started pretty young.
I started when I was 9,
late. I started when I was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, you came in a bit later, and even some kids start earlier than me, right? So from there, I remember like my dad saying, hey, like, okay, the weekend's done, it's Sunday, everyone's going home after the race, but there's a little cadet here, like a
that's a mini kart, kiddie kart.
Yeah. And then you want to try it. So they didn't even make me go around the whole track. So I just went up and down the main straight, turn 1 in Carmona, and then made a U-turn, came back. Mm-hmm. After that, I just looked at him, opened the helmet, and I said, I want to do this.
Done deal.
And then the next week,
buy it.
We bought like a second-hand go-kart from, I think his name was Lorenzo. Mm-hmm. Really cool kid. Like, he was doing well in cadets at the time. It was him and like Mark Boomgarner. Mm-hmm. Mark was really like killing it in like the...
Mark, you're next. Scene. You're coming on like soon.
Yeah, you should come here.
No, like, because his story is also really nice.
Yeah, and like all of that, all of those good memories, all of those bonds, like those friendships, those groups of people, like that I know to this day, that was all formed there on the track, and that was awesome because, like, you know, even with you and me, like we're all bonded by that, by being at the track there in Carmona, and that was thanks to my dad, thanks to them being like competitive, wanting their sons to do well. And it was just, it's the best like bonding you can get. Like after school weekends, I know I was with my dad and we're going to the racetrack, and you can't beat that, right?
You can't.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I hope we can be good fathers like our fathers.
Yeah. Well, they set a really nice standard.
I know. So we've got a lot to learn. All right, next picture. Brother. This was...
That's the hardest.
Was this the first one or the second one?
This was, I think, the second. This was second for sure. The first one was, I remember I didn't have a beard. My hair wasn't as short, so...
and when we say first and second, Marlon...
3 times, I think I did the...
3 times?
Show. Yeah, 3 times.
Oh, but how many of those times were the Formula One car?
The first one, the very first, yeah.
So... For those, I guess we haven't filled that in actually. Marlon is the only Filipino to have driven a Formula One car, no?
I think, well, I don't know. There's for sure some testing.
I mean, like a current real F1 like car proper, as a competitor.
Yeah, testing and like with the team and everything.
On top of that, on top of you only being the only one, you managed to bring the Formula One car to Manila.
Yep.
And that roadshow was amazing. In MOA, the first one, yes.
MOA and...
BGC was the second.
BGC as well. Like near kilometer 0 actually is where we started it. So that was really cool. You know, it was very patriotic. We had the whole F1 team in the car come. Eric Boulier also was there, who's like team principal.
Of Lotus, right?
Of Lotus at the time. He was the one who actually gave me my shot. Like I got to meet him in Hungary, in Budapest. And... he couldn't really make me out. He says, like, why should I pick you? And I just remember sitting in that meeting saying, like, I'll just be giving it my best. I come from the Philippines. You know, like, I have a different background in the sport, but I know that I can prove it and be as good as anyone else here. And they gave me the shot. So it was really cool to see him come back to the Philippines and support me as a young driver out here, as well as my manager.
The turnout was amazing.
Martin Rice,
there was a ton of people.
No, it was so many. Like, especially the ones in BGC.
Yeah.
I think we got like crazy amount of like hits on social media as well. Maybe not always the best hits because we caused a lot of traffic.
Oh yeah, a lot of complaints. I remember
and noise, that. But like, come on, it's once in a lifetime that we get to do these sort of things.
How was the jeepney?
So, the jeepney was cool. I almost stalled it like 3 times because like... stick shift, it's so crazy hard in those Jeeps, like they're old American Jeeps, right? So it wasn't easy, but it was pretty fun to be able to drive like a Globe.
That's awesome. I remember you were holding the change
Yeah.
As
And
well, I
had the
remember
towel.
that.
See, I had the towel there, so we're really sticking true to it. So every time I stopped, everyone had to give me their bayad at the end
Yeah,
of it.
dude,
So
I remember.
it was pretty cool.
Who are these dudes?
Oh my god, that's my brother and Miggy. So
We're just missing Audrey here.
Audrey's
who's, Marlon's sister.
Yeah, my sister. I love you, Audrey. So those are my two little brothers, basically. So Miggy's like my second cousin in a way.
But he's been living with you for
yeah.
forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever since we were racing, actually.
Took him in, so Miggy's been
Good
living
kid.
with us. My brother, like I love him to death. Like
He was on a cart recently.
he drove a go-kart, so that's pretty cool. So my brother, he has like certain restrictions mentally and physically ever since he was born. Like at some point we didn't realize if he would ever be able to walk, even when he was a baby. And we found out like as he was progressing, developing, he's really like a normal child, and that's how we treat him. That's how my friends, my family, all of you guys, you've always treated Alex like just anybody else.
Oh yeah, because Alex is always with us when we're hanging out.
Yeah.
He's in the living room with us. He's playing video games with us. He's out eating with us.
He's just like a normal kid. And we realized like, okay, maybe let's put him in a go-kart and see how he goes. And he just took to it like a fish to water, honestly. And he was taking the racing lines. Okay, a couple times he was just driving on the grass, and like he wouldn't stop when people were showing the checkered flag. But he's really like, he's a talented kid. And
I remember seeing the video.
it runs
Good
in
line.
the family. Like he has a nice line.
Good line.
He's hitting the
You
apex.
Can't deny that.
So I love my little bro. He's studying right now. He's quite tall. He got the genes from my mom's side because all my uncles used to be water polo athletes or basketball players. And yeah, they all competed in the SEA Games before at some point, or were coaching swimming. So he got all of those genes, and he's a proper swimmer's build. And he's gonna be taller than me.
Talented
he's only 16.
gene pool.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's a nice pic.
This is a great picture because after your stint with Formula Cars, you moved on to. Would you say this is the highest level of touring car? Probably is, right? Or one of.
GTs, I'd say so. I think like when I stopped my Formula career, or I didn't stop, but when I decided to transition to touring cars, just because I felt like at the time, Formula One, you needed a serious budget. We were thankful enough to obviously get a lot of support from Globe and from the Philippines to a certain extent to help my career along,
But it's
as well
just
as for my family.
so much money.
It's a crazy amount, right? So I wanted to do something more feasible, something where hopefully I could prolong my career. I think if you're a racing driver, Formula One's the dream when you start out as a kid, but you should always have one foot in reality where there's only really 22 drivers that ever get to go there. And even the best, to a certain point, some of them need money to get there, or some are still paying, But if you want to have a career in motorsport, a real one where you can say you have a livelihood, it's being paid to do the racing. Like at some point, all that investment has to turn around, and you should be paid to risk your life, go to the racetrack, race for cool brands like Audi and Ferrari. You got to put yourself in that position. So doing this transition was hopefully, starting that part of my career, or that process.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to do it with Audi. It's a great manufacturer. We did really well. That was my first year in GTs as well. So I didn't even know if I was going to race that year. Thankfully.
I remember that.
Yeah,
you were coming up with the funds for it.
It was a bit stressful as well. I was making the rounds. As you do as a racing driver, it's not easy. You have to be talented. You have to talk to business people, to entrepreneurs, to petrol heads, to anyone to get a budget going. And that's what I was doing, making the rounds here in the Philippines.
What was it like driving that car?
It was amazing. I mean, that year they came out with these new rules. Audi came out with a new car that was, I think, into its first year. And it's basically molded similar to a DTM cockpit. So you had a carbon fiber seat. You had more buttons almost than any other Formula.
I remember the control stack in the middle.
Yeah, you have a whole panel or console right in the middle where you had all the buttons as well. You had the jacks there. start procedure. You had traction control, ABS, all on the steering wheel. You could like fix everything.
And it was competitive. It's funny because when
competitive.
people think if you're not in Formula One or Formula cars, it's not hard. But
Everyone
it's at an incredibly high level.
Of course.
Because there are also a lot of ex-F1 or F1 drivers there also.
Yeah, that come
and join.
Like Will Stevens was in, I
Le
think the
Le
other
Mans drivers
Audi.
also.
Like Will was there. He used to race for Manor, racing against the likes of people like you had my teammate at the time was Frank Pereira, and Frank was racing with Lewis Hamilton, and he was world champion. He was a world champion go-karter. Beat the likes of Hamilton and Rosberg, and was I think second to Hamilton in Monaco, and Hamilton won in Monaco in GP2. So he was my teammate, and he was
the
super
level was
quick.
high. I remember looking at the times,
list.
not the list. Yeah, the list of like after qualifying.
Entry. Oh yeah, in
And
qualifying.
it's just like, holy smokes.
Yeah, you have everyone.
It's real big names.
Bernd Schneider, like you had all these
DTM drivers too.
Yeah, Frank Stippler, who like drove in Nürburgring. He's like the master there as well. He's that guy. That guy is really incredible. So he's, I think, in his 40s, and he's so old school that he still brakes with his right foot.
Wow. Yeah, because
So
with these cars, you just use the clutch.
to
The clutch
get
is,
away.
the clutch is on your hand, or
Yeah,
is it?
some it's on the hand. So on the Audi it was on the hand.
Okay, so it's
And
really
then-
left foot braking, like a Formula car.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
like with the Merc, the GT3, which I tested at the end of that year, you have the clutch on your foot. But some drivers still use their right foot to brake, and that's kind of weird because especially when you're growing up in go-karts and Formula cars, you only use the left foot for braking, So he switches it, but somehow he makes that style work, and it works in GT. So it's pretty cool.
It's crazy.
So that was actually, that specific picture was doing, let's say, the parade lap around the city, the little town in Belgium. And
That's
we did
amazing.
The 24 hours of Spa that weekend. And it was my first ever.
What's it like doing 24 hours?
So I feel like that race in itself, the 24 hours of Spa in a GT3, that's like to the same level. Like for GT racing, that's like what Le Mans is. It's that high of a caliber. If you win that, that's pretty legit. Like I would put that up there also close to Monaco if I would ever win that race. And it was crazy. Like driving at night in Spa with no lights, possibility of it raining, going through all these conditions, going through Eau Rouge so many times, traffic, lights, like it was crazy. Like it was surreal. It just, that whole weekend felt like a Coachella racing event. And literally, like, I'd be driving down the pit straights. I remember smelling barbecue going into my car.
Oh yeah, because people are grilling up on the hill.
They'd be grilling up on the hills. I remember passing the old pit straight on the back just before Eau Rouge, and Linkin Park was playing in the concert. And then, like, at midnight, they would, like, set off the fireworks, and then you're sitting really cold in your GT3 car, risking your life at night, thinking, like...
It could rain.
Or what the hell am I doing in here? I should be out there eating the barbecue or watching Linkin Park, But it was really the atmosphere, the event itself is crazy. And, like, 24-hour racing, I mean, it's a big respect. And I gained a lot of respect for it when I did it, because it was just amazing. It was amazing.
Did you have comms?
We had comms, so we talked to the engineers.
It's
and
interesting because Spa is a massive track.
Yeah.
So one part of the track, say you're driving at night, which is already terrifying because you have some corners there that are flat and blind. One part of the track could be dry, and another part of the track could be completely soaked in rain.
Because it's
nighttime.
It's 7 kilometers long. So thankfully. Well, not thankfully for me. My first stints were at night. So my first ever 24-hour race put me in night. And like I maybe got like 30 minutes of practice at night, and it was just a crazy experience because your eyes just, they work differently when you're driving at that speed compared to daytime. You see so much more. And not to say that our lights, we had these proper laser lights on the cars and like extra beams as well, specific for the race, but it was scary, but I did well. Like I pushed through. I had a really good stint as well. I think after midnight or after when we passed on the car, like we were running in the top 4. And this was like out of 86 cars on
It's
the
a
grid.
big grid.
86 cars.
And you're constantly passing. It's not like an F1 race where you maybe reach the back markers once.
No.
in a 24-hour race, you are constantly passing, and it's scary because at night your side mirrors look even smaller than they are, and they're already small.
They're
so
tiny.
it's crazy.
And you have amateur
and it's different
drivers.
calibers. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Amateur drivers. You have pro lineup. So I was in a pro lineup, obviously, and I was with Philip Salacuarda, Philip Salacuarda, myself, and
Another pro driver.
Eduardo Mortara. There you go.
Yeah, definitely a pro driver.
Formula E driver as well. Really cool guys. Like, again,
it's a brotherhood. That's the thing.
Yeah,
you get really close to these guys, and you it's a bond that doesn't go away. You won't see them for ages. And
but you'll know each other. It's a small community, but like in GTs, what I liked about it, in Formula cars, you have to be very selfish. You have to only think about yourself. But GTs, you have to learn to work with your teammate, because if you don't do that, then you never get the best performance, right? It's not about, you can't be too selfish. Of course, you want to be the quickest, but you realize, like, if your teammate's just as quick as you, or you're both quick together, that's how you win championships. So it was a totally different.
It's a different mentality.
Yeah, different mindset. But
it's like you're sharing your girlfriend.
Kinda. I mean, your girlfriend's the car, you know, so you gotta learn how to do this menage a trois somehow.
All right, next picture. Who are these dudes?
Boom.
Man, one of these guys is engaged.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
Man, we look so fresh and
you guys look
there.
very good there. You guys look innocent. That's the thing.
So that's the brotherhood, and you know the Stefano. That's the friendship that we all acquired through our time in motorsport, beginning at the go-kart track, right? So I would have never met Mateo, Ivan, yourself, if I never went to the track. Maybe would have seen each other in other school events or something. But I mean, you went to the same school.
Yeah, we were hanging out anyway
in high school. So
yeah,
but I would have never met any of you guys properly if we were never at the track. So they're really good friends. Very happy for Mateo. You got engaged. Congrats to him.
Congratulations.
And Sarah.
He called
awesome.
it. He called it. He called it. I remember when he started going out. This is a nugget for you guys that are Mateo fans or Sarah fans. But when they started going out, he called it. I remember we were saying, "Man, I've never seen you so in love before." And he was like, "I'm gonna marry this girl," and it happened.
Congrats
so good for him.
Yeah,
he'll be on the show soon.
Yeah, you gotta get those two here.
Actually, all three of you should be on the show soon together. That would be a good episode soon.
I mean, this form, this medium, doesn't matter if it's just one person or a whole group. That would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
That.
I need to get some more mics. All right, new life.
Whoa. Well,
I mean, not new life,
new.
but a new chapter, somewhat, because it's also it's the other side of it.
Of course, yeah.
What's it been like? What's it like being in front of the... I mean, you're used to being in front of camera, but
True.
Now you're in the studio. It's interesting because you have a much deeper insight than any other normal commentator because you've been there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you bring in... I mean, you're there with Alex, which is nice.
Yeah.
Jasmine also, once in a while.
Paula, who's like, in terms of
been
a host
there forever.
for a show.
Yeah.
Like, I was growing up watching her as a kid, like when Steve Slater was presenting like a lot of the races too. So being able to work on Fox Sports, it was really cool. They gave me an opportunity before, more like a cameo appearance when I was still racing in GP2. So once in a while I'd come in, talk about some races if we had some breaks. The last couple years though, I've been working more full time with them. And it's been great. Like, I'm really thankful that Fox Sports gives me this opportunity. It's good also because even if I'm not always behind the racing wheel, I can stay close to the sport by commentating about it and being in everyone's living rooms every other weekend for a Formula One race. So the whole studio, the crew, my producers, how everyone works there at Fox in Singapore, it's just great. And I love it. Like, it's my passion. So if I'm talking about it, if I'm doing it myself, I'm just happy that I can prolong my career again, thinking about not always being behind the steering wheel by doing something like this and being a pundit for Formula One.
Yeah. I have a question. I don't know at what point you're in, but I remember when I stopped racing, which was a very long time ago. I remember it was very hard for me because growing up, I had it really in my mind that that was my future and that I was gonna get to Formula One. And I mean, I'm sure you understand. Like you put in all this time and dedication and effort and discipline and sacrifice into this, and then it stops. So I remember when I had to stop. It was really hard. It hurt. It actually hurt me to stop. Like I felt lost. I felt like I'd lost my purpose. And only recently
Found yourself?
have I found myself. Now I'm blessed because I'm like working with my dad, which I love.
By the way, the ice cream, when that's ready,
It'll be good. Of course, hook you up.
hook me. Like, guys, you see this? What does it say?
Creamies.
Creamies. Watch out.
Yep,
All right.
it's coming.
Creamies with the Kit Kat. Oh my God.
Yes,
It must
Kit
taste
Kat,
amazing.
hit us up also. But it took me a while to find myself, and it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people also go through it where they dedicate, like for our friends who go to school, because we didn't finish school, but they go to college and they do a course, and then they get out of the course and do one job related to that course, and they realize, wow, I hate this.
Yeah.
And then they're lost because it's like, wow, I don't want to do this. And it's just interesting because I feel like this is an interesting opportunity for you, and you took it.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the business I have with my dad now, I feel like if you aren't willing to, I mean, I guess it takes time, but if you aren't willing to jump and do something new, you'll get stuck. It's easy to get stuck.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
I mean,
how
it's
do you
not-
feel? Like, did you go through that, or are
I
you?
think
not?
I've gone through it to a certain point. And I think that's something that every racing driver needs to think about and be real with, right? I mean,
Because like you mentioned, there's only 20 if
Exactly.
you're shooting for F1.
for F1, right? So you have to be more realistic and think like, well, there's other opportunities, or if it's not racing, what else can I do? If that's my passion, I want to stick to it. And for someone like me, that's who I am. That's my DNA because I've been doing it since I was a kid, right? So, but you have to think about these things, and at some point, again, it's gonna happen to everyone. It's what happens to all athletes in all sports. There comes a time where in racing, maybe the funding runs out, maybe it's your time, and like the younger ones are getting quicker, and you're just not at the same pace, and they want someone else. You know, the sport will continue on with or without you. Teams will be there with or without you. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do for that next point in your life, right? So for me, it was thinking about things that I could do to stay maybe close to the sport, but not necessarily have me behind the racing wheel. And that includes doing things like Fox Sports, for instance. Or that includes maybe being closer and maybe teaching kids, or...
Because that's incredibly fulfilling too.
Exactly. So that's sort of where I've found like a lot of purpose. I've been looking at other endeavors also in terms of, let's say, for instance, esports.
I was
going to
ask you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about
That's been coming up. So I've been doing a lot of research on it. I've been talking with a lot of big esport teams about the possibilities here in the Philippines, representing even with the FIA and
because there's a big community of esport, of simulator drivers here.
It's massive.
I joined a competition 2 years ago.
They're legit.
Man, they were flying.
They're flying.
Yeah, I met a bunch of... you know, it's actually interesting. These guys had a very similar bond to what we had in the racetrack.
Of course.
It was so interesting because these guys were... It's the same. They're a group of guys. They all know each other because they're the very best. So it's always them competing against each other.
Yep.
And it was funny seeing them interact because they had that bond where they were so close to each other, but as soon as the helmets are on or you're in the simulator, it's like it's time to race and I want to win. So it was nice hanging out with them because I joined. I wouldn't say I'm the best simulator driver, but I'm not bad.
Oh yeah, there's some tricks though.
Man, they're
these guys
flying.
got some tricks.
They're flying.
But that's just how it works these days.
Do you think that is something we can do? I mean, do you think that's realistic in terms of finding a career through
Sports
simulators.
and simulators.
And then not only just having a career just in the simulators, because we know that that's a big industry and you can have a career just in simulators, but into real racing.
I think it should be part of the future moving forward, because now you have you have like an audience, a target, a demographic that's growing within esports. I mean, it's not just motorsports; it's just gaming in general, right? It's just getting huge. You have like Fortnite and all these other big games coming
You
in.
were playing Fortnite for a while, yeah.
Yeah, it would be like I've always like seen into like video gaming. It's been a part of racing for a long time. I remember like also testing like the McLaren simulator, and I met the architect who designed it, and she was already thinking of this concept in the 90s, but they had to wait till like early to mid 2000s for the technology to be good enough to conceptualize what they wanted to achieve, right? So it's growing. I think it's something that can, become a new grassroots for the sport that is already very expensive. It's very hard to sustain for young kids to just focus on their talents versus the funding needed to go into a season in go-karts, for instance, which even at the high level is very expensive.
Karting, for a grassroots thing, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, but it's still, I mean, for me, the reality is karting's still the best school.
Oh, yeah.
It's where you really learn everything, and you know that you've done it. You raced in Europe abroad. You've done very well. Also, I remember you being on pole position as well at the World Championships.
Europe, that was pretty nice
in Europe. So like you know that feeling, right? That what you learn there, you're gonna carry all the way to F1 if you make it there, and you can't teach that anywhere else. You can't teach that in a game because you can't press restart, and just go again, right? That doesn't happen. So even though I still think it should be part of the sport moving forward, because it's just a more feasible option for kids to get into the sport, and it's more accessible. It brings in a new audience, right?
Yeah.
And so they're doing great. So I think you can find talent there, and also at the same time, even in the Philippines, when we did Nissan GT Academy with Sony and Gran Turismo, we found talents here in the Philippines, and we did like a whole esport competition.
I raced with some of those guys recently. They're so fast.
And we did the competition, like I was the coach for Team Philippines. Basically like the Southeast Asian Games for esports in motorsport is what we did there in the UK. We turned a gamer into a professional racing driver, and we won the whole thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I just feel like racing is such a good sport for Filipinos. I feel like we're built for it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The talent there, I mean, not just you. Mateo is also really talented. Michelle Bumgarner, Mark Bumgarner,
All of them.
Ivan.
And there's really so much.
There's
There's
just
so
a
much.
list of like
And
Filipino
all the young
drivers.
kids now.
And the
There are a lot
kids
of good
now
ones.
as well. Like, we have such a big talent pool here in the Philippines. I just feel like we need a bit more of a proper grassroots, a bit more support locally for these drivers, because I'd say like we're still good now. We still have great teams as well, like Mark Goddard, what he's doing with Eurasia, racing in Asian Le Mans. He's always bringing up nice talent, and you also have like these young drivers coming in. But I feel like after our time, that was kind of the peak, and it dipped for a bit. You know? And obviously you have like all these awesome championships locally that JP Tuason does with the Vios Cup and everything.
V1.
Yeah, V1s as well that he brings in.
Yeah, he's bringing the racing closer.
Yeah, he's bringing it to the people, making them understand it more. But to get really the next driver, okay, like I've done sort of like, I have a blueprint. You can see through what I've done, how close it was to getting to F1. So what's the next step here? And I feel like there's not enough steps being put into place. Like we're only thinking
To develop
the
quality.
But it's not to say that that won't come. And it's not to say that I want to get more and more involved to help that happen. And I always said that when the most important thing to me when the F1 car came here, I said it doesn't matter like if it's my name or not, as long as like the flag on the car was Filipino, then I'd be very proud. So I don't want it all just for myself. Like I want it for the next generation to come as well, and hopefully there's still more young drivers trying to achieve that same goal. So you just gotta go for it. I mean, I didn't know I was gonna go all the way from Carmona to
F1.
Monaco and drive an F1 car.
Yeah.
Literally just started with my dad like riding
Coming
with
home
him,
one day, yeah.
from Alabang, having barbecues, running around, being like a kid, and then you end up there. So you should always go for it. So I think that's what the next generation has to do.
I think it's interesting because we still do have a few karters out in Europe. I'm pretty sure I see some on Facebook and they're out there. So I hope they continue.
They should.
It's just like you said. It's just finding the support. The talent's there. I feel like the talent's really there. It's just support.
I think the community should also just be close.
There's a lot of
to any of you guys out there, if you ever want to just ask some questions about what it's like to make it to the next step, like again, I want to be more than helpful to any of them. They ever want to know more about how they can progress their careers further, what the next steps are that need to be done. Just hit me up
slide into his DMs.
Slide into my DMs. I'll talk to you guys. Like that's what I'm supposed to do. I made all those mistakes. I went through all those stories. So you guys should hit me up.
I hope you guys actually take him up on his offer because that is invaluable, really, because there's so many mistakes you can make along the way, and to hear it from somebody that's done it and also so recently is rare. So I hope you guys slide in his DM. If I was a young Carter now, I'd be messaging him right now. Okay, next picture, dude. Last one. What's happening?
Day. That was just a go-kart day.
This is in Carmona.
Carmona as well.
Your home.
Race, yes, and just teaching Pia there how to do the racing line.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun actually. So,
was she any good?
Yeah, she wasn't afraid.
Really?
She just said, enough teaching. Just let me get to the track already. I was talking too much, so I felt like all right, just go ahead, go for it, and she did it, and she was really good. She didn't like go fast right away, but she got the line. She understood the concept, and that was pretty cool. So she's always been like that though, very fearless, regardless of like whatever task it is, like whether it's skydiving or doing something on the spot. I was really like amazed to see her not be afraid and just take it on completely. So
I think that comes with having to become a Miss Universe, because
those girls work very hard to get to where they need to be in order to win a competition like that. At the end of the day, it's a competition, and if you don't come prepared and they only pick one winner, like there's so much pressure there. So
how is she?
Like I got a lot of respect. She's good. She's been traveling. So
I guess it comes with the territory, huh?
As well. Like it doesn't stop,
That's good. That's good for her. I'm sure that's what she wanted out of it also.
Yeah, and from what I understand, like when you win the competition, the work, it only gets harder from there. Because everything is just based on on how you perform on stage. But then you actually have to get in front of people, become a role model, talk in front of the media, be an example all the time. It just gets harder after that. So
and I think I think we could say she's done a really good job of doing that.
Like,
and that must have been stressful for her. Yeah,
of course. But she really graced through everything. Very proud to see that. That was all her doing. To go from winning the competition to her being herself now as Pia, right? So
she's everywhere. She's everywhere.
Can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But that's
that's
all her hard work and doing.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is because you can only win that competition once, right? At least for us in racing,
you can try again next race.
Trying
year.
again, but that's it for them. So I'm very glad that she's transitioned from herself from being the Miss Universe to being Pia. And that's all you can ask for. So she's done really well.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, I wish I could share with you listeners all the stories Marlon's told.
Oh, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
But what's it called? Well, now that we're done with your Instagram pictures.
Yes.
So that was like a look into your past somewhat. Or recent past. Now you've been getting into boxing. We talked about it briefly in the car on the way here. Yeah. Are you gonna be the next Manny Pacquiao?
Wow. That's what I thought when I was younger. Just simply because when I moved to Europe when I was like 16, what's this? I was really inspired by Manny at the time, who's pretty much peaking in terms of boxing, right? He was the face for the country
Untouchable.
in terms of like inspiration, in terms of setting an example in sport as a world champion, right? I've never seen it like it just swept me away, and I was so motivated by it. And when I was young and like I was abroad, I was living alone, it was kind of difficult to find motivation because I was thinking so much of just wanting to come home, missing my friends, my family. Like I had to start from zero when I moved out there. So I would watch a lot of the 24/7 episodes that HBO did on Manny Pacquiao, like when he fought Hatton, Marquez, all these big fights. And I try and catch it also at weird hours, like in the UK, just to see him fight. And that gave me motivation because I was seeing like him set an example in his sport, in his field. And that inspired me to be like, okay, I want to be as professional and hardworking as that for mine, because you have to be fit in racing. Stereotype in racing is like we're not athletes, but
Oh yeah, it's so easy.
I thought that too, and I got dizzy a couple times when I did like harder Formula and races, and you really have to be fit. Like all those guys in Formula One, they're a big part of their life is dedicated to fitness.
Did I tell you that I did an Ironman with Jensen Button?
Yeah, and I'm sure Jensen swept
man.
it. He was one of the quickest from what I
He kicked
understand.
ass.
Yeah.
He kicked ass.
He
And
could have won like a couple races.
It was so funny because being a racer, you know what kind of demands you have as to be competitive in Formula cars. So I was thinking like, okay, like Jensen isn't a full-time triathlete. He's doing F1. He's gonna be strong, but he'll like do a steady race.
Yeah.
And he was faster than a lot of the pros.
Oh yeah.
He was faster than a lot of the professional paid triathletes. He was faster than a lot of them.
Of course.
He was ripping it. This was in Cebu. And I remember being so amazed because you know how much time goes into F1, just the whole circus,
And
the
the fact
traveling.
that did he have
everything.
time for triathlons? Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he's that competitive, amazing.
I think it's like with anything. Like even doing this. So I also did some triathlons also.
Yeah,
like
with Ivan.
Yeah, and we also got on that journey. Mateo also did a couple. He actually started before all of us. So
Yeah, he dragged us all into it.
and I loved it.
Yeah,
because
it
it
was
was cool because it still had that element of racing. And if you're a racing driver, you're always gonna want to beat the clock. And that's in Jensen's genes. That's in my genes. That's in all of us. Like we don't want to just do it to casually do it. Like I want to try and win it or get a medal or do something, achieve something, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. And it's the same now, like what I'm doing with boxing again. Took it up just because I felt like, always lifting weights or even doing that, a lot of triathlon training, it takes a toll because it can get monotonous, right? You're always at a certain pace or you're going linear by running or swimming, doing the same repetitive things over and over again. It can get quite stressful mentally. So I wanted to change it up, do something like boxing, do something where not necessarily to just look better, get fit, but I also wanted to learn more how to defend myself. I might also want to learn jiu-jitsu or certain other aspects of mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
But I started with boxing, and again, like it's in me. Like I want to do it really well. I want to learn how to throw a punch correctly. I want to learn how to defend myself correctly. So it's just I like it because again, it's a sport. I've always been athletic, and just doing something as simple as boxing, it's very easy to do. You can just walk into so many gyms here in the Philippines. It's part of our culture, right?
Yeah,
to do
especially
it.
more than ever.
And thanks to Manny as well. And it's
You've been boxing with his son.
yeah,
also.
with Jimwell, so that's pretty cool.
He seems like a cool guy.
He's really a nice kid,
Yeah.
super humble. Looks like my mouth was just open when I saw him the first time in the gym because I thought he looks like Manny.
Yeah, they have the same build.
They're the same build. They got the same calves.
Yeah.
They seriously, like when I saw him, I was starstruck. So and that just goes to show what the achievements Manny did in boxing. But Jimwell is really cool. I'm super happy I met him. Had a couple dinners, hung out a bit. And he's a really nice kid. I think he's got a bright future, whether it's going to be in boxing or whatever other endeavor he's going to do.
I'm sure it'll be
The great thing is he's just, where he's at as a young kid, like it's amazing.
He's still in high school, isn't he?
I know, or I'm not too sure.
He's a lot
I don't want to
younger
say
than
that for him. But he's studying, I think in university or college by now. He's a bit older now, yeah. And he's done a couple fights too, so I think he was supposed to fight in November as well. But it's just cool. It's really like I walked up to him in the gym and he was just super humble and like really nice guy, super nice guy.
And he likes cars too.
Oh yeah, he's got the nice Corvette.
Yeah, I saw. That's awesome.
So yeah, like I'll trade punches with him for that Corvette any day. So, but it's cool. Like I think like when he showed up with the car, like it was just pretty awesome to see it that he likes the nice cars. It was hand in hand, I guess. You know.
I mean, how can you not?
Of course not.
Because Manny also likes the cars. I think.
I remember seeing him in those episodes on 24/7, and he'd show up with like a Ferrari.
Yeah, the 430. I remember
the
that.
Mercedes,
I remember seeing that.
Rocking up at the wild card gym. Come on, of course. Like
that's cool. I would love to join you guys when I'm recovered.
You should.
In a month, I'll join you guys. I have gloves. It's just
it's a nice little fight club there.
I'll join you in a van.
Just whatever problems you got, like they go away when you hit the pads there.
Yeah.
The trainers are really nice.
Where do you box?
So it's in Legazpi. It's a place called Elite. So we just box there.
Yeah.
And there's a nice like coffee spots, food all around. So we just all like to meet up. It's actually also become more like a social thing. You know?
I mean you're there with your friends.
You're there with your friends, like. And the fight club's just been getting bigger and bigger, so there's been more and more people joining, and it's been pretty cool. So I'm enjoying it a lot because it's sport is a way to also socialize and not just be competitive. I've done that whole competitive aspect. I don't mind doing it still, but it's also nice to just be humbled in a sport that necessarily isn't your profession, and you can enjoy it with friends, and that's what.
And it's nice to just be learning something new, I guess.
Oh yeah, like who doesn't want to know how to throw a straight punch or look cool?
I've been watching the Insta stories. The combos are getting faster for sure.
Yeah, my hands are pretty quick, so we'll see. In a couple months, maybe quicker.
Are you planning on joining any fights?
I've thought about it. There's that part of me that wants to know what that next step is. You know what I mean?
I guess that's like, in you to just be searching for the next step and how to get better.
And just knowing what it really would be like to put all of that training, all of that knowledge into practice against an opponent, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not doing it to really prove something, but I really want to just see like what the deep end of the sport is.
Yeah.
Because I think it's super brutal. Like it's so physically tiring and hard. Like I remember just getting into it like more than a month and a half ago, and like I could barely carry my hands up after 1 or 2 rounds. And still now, even when you get better, you just get more intense. So even 3 rounds, 4 rounds is tough. And these guys do 12 rounds and they can still keep going after, you know. So I appreciate like any athlete, and especially in boxing because I love the sport. And I want to know what that other side is. So that others like the next step for me would be saying, okay, I want to do a fight. But this is just how I think every time I get into anything. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's good, man. I will watch.
I will
watch. I'll just watch.
You come?
No fighting for me, but I'll watch.
You could be in the corner.
I'll be your corner man.
Yeah,
I'll just
exactly.
I'll just rub your face a little
Put
bit.
ice on my back.
Yeah, you'll be good. You'll be good. Just hit him with that uppercut. Oh man.
Super good.
Well, yeah. We've hit an hour, so thank you, dude, for coming. It was a really interesting talk, talking about what you've done, where you're going, all the plans for the future. So I'm sure you're gonna be on another podcast soon with the boys.
Yeah. No, this is fun. Like this whole medium, I think.
Do you want to plug your YouTube? Before you.
That's in the works.
Okay.
So another endeavor I want to just explore. It's a hobby for now. It's just kind of vlogging small bits and pieces of my life.
Because it's very interesting. Yeah.
I hope it is.
I think so.
And like, it'll tap a bit into the racing, what I do here in the Philippines, what I want to do more in motorsport, what I do already with Fox Sports, and then just all the typical stuff that comes along with it. So I hope a lot of people will have fun with it. I'm not trying to take it too seriously, so hopefully people are laughing and smiling more also when I get into that.
Yeah.
And that'll come out soon. So that's in the works. We have built up quite a lot of content and material. So over the next couple months, just to ease that in. So it'll be fun. Like everyone's into it as well. So I just want to have fun with it and see like what you're doing with this podcast too.
Yeah,
I never expected you would do it, but you're a great host. I'm happy I'm here.
Thank you.
Like this is great. Like I've always seen like these long form mediums on YouTube. You know, like I've seen like podcasts like Joe Rogan.
The best, the number one.
And it's nice. So I feel like I just want to say thank you for having this.
Oh, thank you for coming, man.
You know, and maybe I'll invite you to my podcast.
I would love to show up. I would love to show up.
This is really cool, Stefano. So
thank you, brother.
Bro. Yeah.
All right, guys. See ya.